This is Kitt, FD UK of the Frag Dolls, speaking to Michel Ancel. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations on King Kong the game. It's a really wonderful, wonderful game. How do you feel about the finished game?
In fact, it was quite hard to make King Kong entering a small DVD. You know, it's so huge. So. And it's not just in terms of visual. The story is very. There's a lot of different elements in the story, and we wanted all these sequences and elements that are in the movie to be in the game too. So it was quite a bigger work than what we thought before. In fact, when we started, we thought it was just okay. It's just a gorilla fighting, so that's quite easy. And it's more than that. Just that, you know, it's a real story. And there is a real emotional curve, you know. The story of King Kong starts simply, the beast taking away the princess. She's not a princess, she's an actress, but the symbolic is there. And finally it's quite more complex, because suddenly the beast that appears to be the bad entity is the victim. And the human that seems to be on the good side, finally there seems to be evil. So the story is evolving, and it was quite interesting to put all these elements in the game. So now we are really quite proud, I would say, to have been able to achieve this big goal that was having this incredible story in the game.
I mean, I'm personally absolutely fascinated by. When you're Jack, you feel quite vulnerable. There isn't a huge amount of weaponry early on in the game. And then, of course, playing Kong, you're suddenly massively powerful. And that then flips round towards the end of the game. Creatively, that must have been quite interesting for you. I'm interested in how you achieved the subtlety between the sense of the sort of power changes between Kong and playing Jack.
In fact, I must admit that and say that this big idea of playing as Kong and playing as man came from Peter Jackson himself. I think that he had this vision of having the contrast of the same situation. You know, when you play as man, you're the prey, and when you play as Kong, you're the predator. And what we just did is that we use and reuse the same AI for T-Rexes and raptors, for example. And we wanted this visual and AI to be able to respond differently when you are Kong and when you are the man. So while you are the man, they're trying to chase you, and when you are Kong, they are the victims. So we build two different AIs for the same creatures, you know, trying to survive when you are Kong, and try to chase you and to hit you when you are the human. And it's creating this feeling of being the prey and being the predator, and it's creating this big gameplay element of the game.
I'm reliably informed that you were given quite a lot of access to Peter Jackson's project and to Weta and the sort of artistic stuff they were coming up with. Can you tell me a bit more about how you implemented that in the game when the film itself wasn't, in fact, even completed?
Yes, the big thing, I think, is that Peter Jackson's way of making the movie is really basically it's based on the fact that he's working with incredible artists that are able to draw incredible concept arts, and these concept arts were used for the movie and for the game too. When we were in New Zealand, we saw these concept arts at every level of the building of the movie. In fact, we have seen people, you know, trying to build these incredible trees using these concept arts. We have seen the people on the sets trying to find the right lights and fog and smog and the atmosphere of the same concept art. Everybody was working with this picture, and we had access to these pictures. So what we did is that we took all these pictures back in Montpellier, France, and we built a kind of creative room, you know, filled with all these concept arts. And then we worked very closely with Peter Jackson and with his artists in order to be in the mood and in the spirit of the movie.
You yourself, in the games you've previously made, you're an extremely creative person, and you tend to be very much story based. So I'm interested in what your personal attraction was to being part of the process of making the game.
I think that I was really interested in the evolution of the story of Kong himself. When you play King Kong, the game, first you don't see King Kong for more than 2 hours. So you just play as man, and you hear King Kong, but you don't see him. After you see him taking Anne away, but you can't control Kong at this time. And after you control Kong, trying to save Anne, but she's afraid of you. And all these steps are playable. It was the big challenge, and it was the main thing that interested me, the fact that King Kong himself is evolving. And that's the big thing of the game.
Well, I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful game and wonderful to play. I'm interested in the fact that you've worked with Ubisoft for an incredibly long time, as far as I'm aware. Am I right in saying that you joined Ubisoft when you were 17? Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been working on games before. When I was 13, I had an Amiga Commodore computer, which was quite popular in the UK too, and in France.
I had one.
Yeah, you had one?
Yes,
yeah, and it was possible to make graphics, to produce sound, and even to program and to make some programming on this computer. So I made a first Rayman playable demonstration on this computer before it appeared on PlayStation 1. So it was for me it was a way to make my own game, and so I started very early.
And am I right in saying, did you actually win a competition at some point, and that was how you eventually came into employment with Ubisoft?
Yes, in fact, Ubisoft was having a magazine. It was not named the magazine Ubisoft, it was another name, so I didn't know it was Ubisoft behind this magazine. And maybe this magazine was a way to employ artists and have contacts with artists. And so every month in this magazine you had a kind of demonstration that had a prize. So it was possible to send your demonstration, and then what happened is that I had a phone call from one of the big person in Ubisoft. It was not about the competition, it was about working for Ubisoft. So I was a kid, so it was quite a big adventure for me.
Yeah, I think it's a story that sort of inspires a lot of young people who are programming, that know that it can happen like that so young, and
and I think it's still possible. It's still possible to enter in the game business in this way.
Now, I'm aware that Peter Jackson was very interested in Beyond Good and Evil, and that was a part of why you moved on to King Kong from there. People really want to know this. Is there ever going to be a Beyond Good and Evil 2?
Yes, and I think it's in the team a lot of people, when we have finished King Kong, they say we'd like to work on Beyond Good and Evil 2. I think it's we have a lot of ambition for Beyond Good and Evil, and I think it will come at the right time. Maybe we're going to work on some other things, but we're still thinking and more than thinking, trying to think exactly what should be and what must be Beyond Good and Evil 2. So it's an idea we have still in mind.
Good, that's good to hear. Can I just check one thing? The monkey does get it in the end.
He get killed, you mean? In fact, that's the big question, and I think that Peter Jackson said when we were talking about the end, video games have to be interactive, and the end will be interactive.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Michel Ancel.